Imagine you walk into work or class after a day off, and your boss or teacher looks at you and asks, "So, where were you yesterday?" Your heart might beat a little faster as you search for the right words. What is the line between a good reason and a weak excuse, and how do you explain it without sharing too much or too little? Hi everyone, I'm Jack, and welcome back to the channel. We've all been there, and today we are going to explore the art of explaining an absence. And of course, along the way, we'll learn some essential English that will help you handle these situations with confidence. Let's start with the most common scenario: being sick. One morning, you wake up feeling terrible. You know you can't go to work or school. The best approach is usually direct and simple. You send an email or a message that says something like, "I won't be able to come in today because I've come down with a fever." By the way, come down with is a great phrasal verb. It means to start to get a sickness. For example, my son came down with a cold, so he stayed home from school. Notice that the message is clear. You don't need to give a lot of details. In a professional or academic setting, people just need to know that you are unwell. By the way, unwell is a more formal word for sick. For example, she was feeling unwell and went to bed early. It's a very useful word for official communications. Sometimes the problem isn't that you're sick, but that your explanation sounds weak. You might say, "I couldn't come because I had stuff to do." This sounds very vague. By the way, vague means not clear or specific. For example, his instructions were very vague, so I didn't know what to do. A vague reason makes people doubt you. Instead of being vague, it's better to be honest but brief. If you had a problem at home, you could say, "I had to deal with a personal matter." This phrase is perfect. It shows you have a serious reason, but you don't have to share private information. So, why is this simple task so stressful for so many of us? I think a big part of it is the fear of being judged. We worry that our boss, teacher, or even our friends won't believe us. This fear can sometimes push us to tell a white lie. By the way, a white lie is a small lie that you tell to be polite or to avoid hurting someone's feelings. For example, I told her the dress looked nice, but it was a white lie. We might say we had a headache when we really just needed a mental health day. While this can seem harmless, it can become a problem if it happens often. A better long-term strategy is to build trust with people. When people trust you, they are more likely to accept your reasons without question. Your explanation should always sound genuine. By the way, genuine means real and sincere. For example, he showed a genuine interest in my work. When your tone is genuine, people can feel it. Now, let's think about how to structure the perfect explanation. There are really only 3 steps. State your absence, give a simple reason, and say what you will do to catch up. For instance, "I'm sorry I missed the meeting yesterday. I had a family emergency. Could you please fill me in on what I missed?" The phrasal verb "fill someone in" is extremely common in the workplace. It means to give someone the details they missed. For example, Can you fill me in on the morning's news? This shows that you are responsible and ready to get back to work. There's no need to go into a long story. Your boss doesn't need to know every detail about your sick dog or your car troubles. In fact, giving too much information can sometimes make your story sound less believable. The key is to keep it brief. By the way, keep it brief is a common collocation. It means to keep something short. For example, please keep your presentation brief because we don't have much time. So, you're communicating that you had a valid reason for being away. By the way, valid reason is another useful collocation. It means a reason that is fair and acceptable. For example, being sick is a valid reason to miss school. This is what you want to communicate, that your absence was necessary. But what about social situations? This is where things can get a little more complicated. Canceling plans with friends feels different from calling in sick to work. You might feel like you're letting them down. Let down is a phrasal verb that means to disappoint someone. For example, I promised to help him, and I don't want to let him down. This feeling of disappointment is what makes it so hard to cancel. Imagine you've had a really difficult week. You feel completely exhausted. By the way, exhausted means extremely tired. For example, after the long hike, I was exhausted. You have plans to go out with friends, but all you want to do is rest. In this situation, honesty is often the best policy. You could say, I'm so sorry, but I have to cancel tonight. I've had a really draining week and I don't have any energy left. The word draining is great here. It means something that uses all of your physical or mental energy. For example, my job is very draining, so I sleep a lot on the weekends. Most friends will understand. They've probably felt the same way before. It's much better than making up a complicated excuse that they might not believe. You can then suggest a new plan which shows you still want to see them. You could add, can we make up for it next week? By the way, make up for it means to do something good to fix a mistake or a bad situation. For example, I forgot her birthday, so I will buy her a gift to make up for it. Sometimes plans change because something happens at the last minute. By the way, at the last minute is an idiom that means at the latest possible time before something happens. For example, he changed his mind at the last minute. Maybe your car won't start, or a family member needs your help unexpectedly. When this happens, it's important to let your friends know as soon as you can. A simple text message saying, something has come up and I can't make it, is usually enough. The phrasal verb come up is often used for unexpected problems or events. For example, I have to work late because something important has come up. It's a polite and slightly formal way to say an unexpected issue has occurred. This leads to a really important question. Do you always have to give a reason? The answer is no. You are not always required to explain your absence in detail. There are situations where your reasons are private, and that's perfectly okay. It's important to set boundaries. By the way, set boundaries means to create limits for what you will do or accept from others. For example, it's important to set boundaries with your coworkers. Let's say you need to take a day off for a doctor's appointment that you don't want to discuss. You can simply tell your manager, I have a prior commitment that I cannot change. A prior commitment is a promise or arrangement you made before. For example, I can't come to the party because I have a prior commitment. This phrase is professional, respectful, and doesn't invite more questions. The reason for your absence could be confidential. By the way, confidential means private or secret and not to be shared with others. For example, the information in this report is confidential. You have a right to privacy, both in your personal life and at work. You don't owe anyone your entire life story. The goal is to communicate responsibly. When you need to be absent, the key is to inform the right people at the right time. You should also make sure your work doesn't become a problem for others. This shows professionalism and respect for your colleagues. So, the next time you have to explain an absence, remember these ideas. Be honest, but be brief. Use clear and professional language. And remember that you have a right to your privacy. It's not about finding the perfect excuse. It's about communicating with respect and responsibility. In the end, explaining an absence is a small but significant part of how we build relationships. It's a moment where trust, honesty, and clear communication come together to show what kind of person we are. I hope this discussion was helpful. If you enjoy exploring topics like this to improve your English, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. We explore fascinating subjects from science and psychology to real stories and success, all designed to help you master English in a natural and engaging way. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.